Hello, everybody. Welcome to Catalyst in California Times. My name is Guy Meyer, and I am the 5-year host of a local TV show called California Times. Today's show is part 6 in a series that I'm doing with my friend Susan Kirsch, founder of Catalyst. You can catch up with the Catalyst website and catch up with our shows at catalystca.org. The purpose of the series is to give catalysts, those people out in the front line who are making change happen, an opportunity to tell their stories. So I'm pleased to welcome our guests today. I have Lydia Kou, council member, city council member from the city of Palo Alto. Lydia, welcome to the show. And Peggy Huang, mayor of Yorba Linda, a city in Southern California. Lydia, I'm going to start with you. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into politics?
Oh, yes. I'm a Palo Alto resident now for about 24 years. Have always been involved with my community, my neighborhood association, PTA, being a coach at the middle school for girls volleyball. So very involved with my community, and launched the emergency preparedness program here in Palo Alto. And so got to know a lot of neighbors, and also from within my neighborhood as well as outside of my neighborhood, but within Palo Alto. And we have these complete streets and safe route to school streets. And there was a development that was being proposed that would consist of 72 units that would use that safe route to school street that had no sidewalk. And so a lot of the neighbors, I don't know why, but came to me. And so I started to investigate and take a deeper dive look at it, and found out that there was so much that was going on behind the scenes, where a loan was provided to the developer even before they rezoned that piece of property. And the communications that the developer was providing to the community was very much top down. This is what we're going to do, and this is how we're going to do it, and that's it. The mayor at that time basically held a mediation and kind of bamboozled everybody. And that was the start of my political career.
Sounds like you were a fighter.
Dragged in.
Yeah, that's why you're on this show today. So thank you. Peggy, tell me a little bit about yourself and what got you started in politics.
Well, I'm here in Yorba Linda, birthplace of President Richard Nixon, and we are very proud to host his presidential library, one of 13 in the nation. I got started in politics very early when I was in college, and so I have been an intern in the state Senate, and I'm also a Senate fellow. So I spent a considerable amount of time in the state Senate. Walked away from politics to start a family, thought, politics was behind me, until the city decided that rather than repairing the roads in our city, they wanted to put $11 million to build a equestrian center right next to an elementary school in middle of a golf community. So I was not pleased with the use of the public funds for a very small interest group that really, even though we are a equestrian town, we have 122 miles of trails for equestrians. Then most people board their horses in their backyard. So it would be very little use and lots of money. I was also very concerned about the public health of children, especially my child who has asthma, what it's like to be next to dust and hay. So I went to City Hall, and they didn't want to listen to me. They thought I was just a, bored housewife. And so I said, okay, well, I'll show you. And I knocked on doors, nearly 1,700 doors in 4 months, gathered nearly 1,000 signatures, and I brought my neighbors.
You were a fighter, Peggy. You got to move on, but it just goes to show what a good choice we've got of the two guests here. Unlike so many other people in politics, you both jumped in because you had a you were on a mission already. Uh, Lydia, tell me about the uniqueness of Palo Alto. Uh, Tell me a little bit about the population and give folks a brief little picture of the fabulous city of Palo Alto.
Well, Palo Alto is only 25 square miles, and a third of it is open space and parks. And we're bordered by hills on one side, and then we're bordered by the bay on the other end. So there's only that much that we can do. It's a family town. Like Peggy's Yorba Linda, we have a lot of families move here because of our schools. We have excellent school system, and people, it's 12 years that they can have their kids at a school where it's consistent. And of course, our neighbor is Stanford University, so they have a lot of lands here. And our other neighbor is Menlo Park and Mountain View. So it's a very small area, a lot of trees. Our city, the city of Palo Alto actually means big, tall trees in Spanish. So we value our trees a lot, our urban forest. As a matter of fact, one of the past council members have made it part of our infrastructure. Our predecessors who are council members have made sure that we have the open space, baylands and preserves, just so that going into the future, our residents can enjoy all of those. So we're mainly, a lot of single family homes for families, but then we also have our business core. We have Caltrain that goes through our city up and down the bay from San Francisco all the way down to Gilroy. So there is that factor also, which helps with our transportation.
Thank you, Lydia. Now, we have Northern California and now Southern California. Peggy, tell me about Yorba Linda.
Well, it's very similar in size like Palo Alto. We're only 22 square miles. We are about 69,000 in our population right now, and we're looking around 70,000 when we finally built it out. City of Yorba Linda is made up of rolling hills. We have very little flat land, but the most challenging part and unique part about Yorba Linda is it used to be a oil production city. So we have oil wells everywhere, making it very challenging to develop in general, to get around those state regulations. On top of that, nearly 40% of the city is actually high wildfire zone. We are quite famous from the 2008 freeway complex fire, where over 114 homes were completely destroyed. And recently, 2 years ago, the same corridor where the wildfire started came down again and damaged over 30 homes. But fortunately, this time, after a significant amount of investment by the city, only one house was completely destroyed. So we have quite a bit of challenge between, wildfire and oil wells in what we can do in terms of safely developed and house our residents, as well as safely evacuate our residents.
Well, thank you, Peggy. Now, Peggy, I'll keep you going here. Let's start with, we've found out a little bit about how you guys are unique. Tell me, what do you have in common, particularly in the impact of the state mandates for housing? Peggy, what's going on?
Well, very much like Palo Alto, given our geographical type of challenges, when you have a top-down state mandate, one size fits all, thinking that the world is completely flat, it does not look into what we can do or completely physically able to do at our city. I have developers who have come to me and all excited that they were going to build these high density homes, and then they pulled out the geological report and said, oh my, how am I supposed to build around these oil wells? This is very difficult. We recently approved, well, they're building now an a piece of property that it looked like somebody played tic-tac-toe with the oil wells. And so even though Yorba Linda seems to have this reputation having large yards and small house on a big acreage, the acreage is there because of the oil wells. You just can't build on them.
Wow. Talk about unique situation there in Yorba Linda. Now, Lydia, tell me how you perceive this issue now of these state mandates on Palo Alto. How is that affecting Palo Alto?
Well, the biggest part of all these state mandates, like Peggy had said, it's very much top down without even recognizing how the cities all differ in their uniqueness and what is important to the residents who live there. For us, we have limited natural resources. We are right by the bay, so we're threatened by sea level rises, and that part of town we would not be able to build upon because they're just going to be overwhelmed someday by flood. Then there is also the fact that with the state mandates, the developers that come in and propose development is all for market rate housing, and we're left behind without the affordable. And when I say affordable, is the genuine affordable, which is the ones that are below market rate and they're subsidized. But we're left without those, so we're short on that. And there's just more and more market rate. We also know as a fact, as a data point also, that with every tech job that comes into a city, there is a job multiplier, which brings in 4 to 5 workers that actually work on behalf of that one tech worker. So now these 4 or 5 support work roles are going to be coming from out of town because they are of a wage. They take wages. They don't have a salary and they're lower income. So they have to come from further away. Another part is every time all these top-down governments are insistent on providing upzoning and spot zoning to each and every of these developers because they come in and they say, this is how we pencil out. Well, every time you upzone, you're increasing the price of that piece of land. And with that, you consistently are increasing. We are not going to be able to build affordable housing, genuine affordable housing, as long as that land, that piece of land is at a high price. And that's what top-down does, and that's what upzoning does. And so I believe a lot of the cities, including Peggy's town, is experiencing very much similar impacts and similar problems.
Lydia, just for anybody who doesn't know, which probably be only me, but I've learned a bit. Upzoning, you're talking about what upzoning is?
Upzoning is basically, most cities have already zoned their pieces of parcels. And in planning, you zone it so that they're compatible and harmonious with what is around them. And so they're mostly zoned. We have the R1 neighborhoods. We have the commercial cores where they're zoned for retail or for light industrial all around town. Well, when a developer comes in and we provide upzoning because of top-down governance or state laws and state mandates, then it means that we allow them to develop more than what we have currently zoned for. So the impacts are a lot higher.
On that one lot, I take it.
On that one lot.
So you can
Yes.
be much more density.
Mm-hmm.
Let me ask you both, and I'll start with Lydia again. What has Palo Alto been doing on its own before the state started mandating housing? Because you've probably seen this issue developing for a while of affordable housing.
Yeah. So well, since I've come on to council, what we've done is we've actually reduced. We now have a cap on how much office development there may be per year within our comprehensive plan. So you know, with what I found out when I started running for council was that there's always the cycle. There's the establishment folks that come in that support development. And then there's the residents that come in and say, you know what, we have to focus on residents. We have to stop developing. There's never that balance, you know, looking at developing, you know, on the residential side, on the retail side, on the commercial side in a balanced manner. And then at the same time, looking at quality of life. So when I came into council, there was an initiative by residents in order to cap our commercial growth. That's office and R&D. And so we've capped that. So there's so much office development that can be built, and any offices that open up or R&D would have to be within that cap. We've also made a priority every year. Our annual priority has been to focus on building genuine affordable housing, a focus on affordable housing. So that is where we're really focused on.
Thank you, Lydia. Peggy, how about Yorba Linda? What's going on?
Oh, for the city of Yorba Linda, for our past few projects, the city actually donated its land so that we can have the developers come in and develop those land for truly what Lydia has said, and I fully agree, truly affordable, the low income level. So we have done that, as well as we have pulled together as much financial resources as we can, applying for grants to buy homes that, if they, you know, a lot of these houses already have deed restrictions in terms of it had to be at a certain income level for X amount of years. And as those deeds come up, we try to buy homes that, you know, if the owner decides to sell it as the deeds restriction is expired, we will buy those homes and then and keep that deed restriction so that we can continue to make it affordable for people to purchase. And so we have done quite a bit in terms of partnering with nonprofit organization as well in providing a nonprofit where we can, in providing low income housing. So definitely our priority number one is, if there's a city property that we can use to donate and make it affordable, we're going to do that. And that's what we have done. But we are near the point where we are unable to do that because we're running out of city land, as well as the fact that a lot of times you need to do heavy subsidies, and we're simply running out of that money. But we are doing what we can to make it happen.
Thank you, Peggy. We've got some more questions to cover, ladies, and this is fascinating. This is excellent. When we talk about housing pressures and growth in California, we're dealing with our precious environment, and that's one of the reasons why many people are here in California in the first place. We have a law in California known as the California Environmental Quality Act, a 40-year law protecting citizens, communities, and their environment, the air, water, and safety. The state is mandating a streamlining of these projects where what is the role of, how do you see CEQA being, well, take it, Lydia. Tell me about the CEQA and the impact of the state mandates.
Well, you know, we have limited natural resources, right? And CEQA is an opportunity to examine what the impacts are to our natural environment. But also with the state mandates, when it becomes streamlined and ministerial, then you take it away from the people for them to take a look at it and for their input into what they see as impacts and how it would have an impact on them. So most of my objection to a lot of this streamlining is that it reduces transparency, and then it actually removes it from the people who are going to be mostly affected by this process that the state is pushing forward.
Peggy, go ahead. What do you think there?
Well, as I mentioned previously, because of the number of oil wells in the city of Yorba Linda, streamlining CEQA will take the opportunity for us to examine what contamination And these oil wells have posed or have already contaminated. We need to know what's going on underground. So it's and it's actually through the CEQA process as well that some of the developers been able to find oil wells that were not on the state geological maps. And that has been very troubling to have developers. And I have a great deal of sympathy for them, in fact, when they have purchased the property thinking they can, under this idea of 30 units to an acre, making the land valuable, they pay the premium, they come in, they're ready to develop, they do their CEQA, and they realize there are like 15 more oil wells there than what was on the state map. So that's a huge geological challenge for developers. And if we don't have the CEQA process, how will we know that the water and the soil is not already contaminated? We need to know that in advance. In the city of Yorba Linda, we also have the wildfire corridor, as well as we have the bluebird. I guess it's considered a sanctuary. It was created, and so all those things have to be considered, and that's what CEQA does. It's more than just a nuisance or about counting cars. It's a lot more to understand how a development can possibly impact our environment and what's already in the environment that can impact the people who will live there. I don't think any of us would want not to have the disclosure that there's chemicals or fumes coming off of their soil. So it's very important that we go through that process.
Thank you, Peggy. Let me pose a question to both of you. Consider this. What would a statewide EIR be like on the impact of the bills of SB 9 and 10? I'm not sure if anybody has given it much thought except myself and Susan, who's posed this question here for you. How does this open the door? What is the impact on the this unbridled density that is the result of these bills? Peggy, go ahead. What do you think for a statewide EIR?
Well, for us, I mean, like I mentioned, when you do an EIR and streamlined it, definitely we won't be able to do that amount of detail analysis that we need to understand how oil wells have contaminated our water and soil. That's number one. Number two, given our high wildfire zones,
Peggy,
evacuation.
Peggy, I'm going to interrupt. I'm not sure I made that clear enough. The idea was, what if the state had to do an EIR on the whole, or just SB 9 and 10, what their environmental impact might be as a whole on California? What do you think about that?
Well, I think what it will do is it'll force a lot of housing density in one area, and will definitely create the air pollution that we're trying to avoid when you have high density in one area. As well as really for cities like mine and Palo Alto, evacuation plans are very hard to execute with that high amount of density, and the state wanting to take away parking requirements. It's also unnecessarily infused a lot of money into a city's council race. That many people do not understand that SB 10 will bring in billions of dollars into little city council races like mine. My city does have ballot box zoning. SB 10 allows the majority of the city council to override ballot box zoning. So a developer or special interest can put up their own candidates, spending the money on candidates in order to make sure they have the majority.
Thank you. That's a really interesting and just another very good point. Lydia, do you want to touch base on this concept of a statewide EIR on the whole SB 9 and 10 itself, if the people had some power? And we do.
It's an interesting thought, although, each city, when they go through their general plan, so excuse me, because there's this mechanics going on in my head as I'm answering. Each city, when they're doing their comprehensive or general plan, they do their own EIRs, and that's also based on growth. And it brings me back to when Palo Alto was doing their comprehensive plan, we had an EIR done, and there were a number of significant but unavoidable impacts. And even then, they were unavoidable. The staff was able to say that it's a regional issue, and so therefore we can't do anything about it, and so therefore we go forward with the growth that they had indicated. Traffic impacts was one, air quality was another, but what they managed to say and to off it is to say that it's a regional issue. So my concern now with the statewide EIR is number one, would enough people have eyes on it to make comment within the period that they give us? And then the second part would be, would they just chalk it up to, since it's significant and unavoidable, and because it's a statewide need, would they just kind of go forward with it and open the door to more development?
I think we want to just put that in there, make them consider that, think about that.
Mm-hmm.
Let me get on to, we're just down to the last few minutes. This has been very exciting and a good talk on RENA numbers. RENA is the Regional Housing Need Allocation, and this has been coming through on an annual basis for a while. Lydia, in just a short minute, tell me about the numbers in Palo Alto, what you're required to produce, and will you be able to meet those quotas? And what's the situation there?
Well, when it first started off, they gave us over 10,000 dwelling units that we had to build in Palo Alto. Now we're a community of 67,000 at this time, our population. And we went back with with a letter challenging it. And so now we have been reduced to 6,086 units of housing. And of course, there's that 10% that we have to add in for just in case under a surplus under SB 166. So it comes to about 6,600 that we have to build in the sixth cycle. And that is unreasonable, unachievable, and it's setting up cities to fail. And that's short, 1 minute. That's all I can say.
Thank you, Lydia. Peggy, what's the numbers for
I
Yorba?
could. The Yorba Linda's number is 2,497, and I cannot agree more with Lydia. It's unachievable. I had the builders in BIA, the Builders Industry Association of Orange County, telling me it's not achievable. So we're we appealed, and we actually lost that appeal. And I want the record to be clear. I am the chair of the RENA subcommittee for SCAG, and I did not hear my own city's appeal, but we lost out on that, and we're
Peggy,
trying very hard to get a
Peggy,
plan.
we're going to have to go to the wrap up here, and we are. The numbers are huge, and what they are telling every community in California is that you have to build this. With just a minute left, Lydia, do you have a suggestion for people who are tuning in to how to participate, how to push back?
Yes, I want to remind at the last governor's brief intro at SCAG's General Assembly last week, this is what he said: local governments are the lifeblood of this state. And at the end of the day, our state vision is to realize at the local level. And he says that localism is determinative. So let's make sure he remembers that. It's about bottom up, not top down. Then the second part is I want to encourage all other cities to understand that the state government and our legislatures are actually causing a division or being divisive in this whole state. It's causing cities to take action against each other. Don't do that. Band together and fight this, because it affects big cities and small cities, and we need to come together to fight this issue. Top down is not listening to the people, and this is a people's state. Thank you.
Thank you, Lydia. Peggy.
Ditto on what she said. I would encourage your viewers, just remember your state legislators are elected. And so let them know what you oppose, what you support, and that you don't like this type of top to bottom method that they're trying to impose on cities on you, and make your vote count.
And thank you both very much. I encourage everybody to check into catalystca.org for continuing connections with the whole state of California. Thank you so much, Lydia and Peggy, and keep up the good work.
Thank you, and thank you for everything you're doing.
Thank you both. Thank you, Guy. Thank you, Susan. Peggy, thank you.
Thank you, Lydia. Thank you, and nice meeting all of you.
Yes.